Hello and welcome to part 8 of this gray paper drawing. So in this part we'll be drawing the sky. Alright, so starting off we want to collect several of our blues. We don't want any really dark blues in the sky. This is going to be a daylight drawing. So what you first want to do is get a spot for the sun. So with the gray paper, you want to use the white in order to get the center of the sun. The white is probably one of the only colors that's actually noticeably lighter than any of the surrounding gray, the gray color of paper. So let's pick a spot. So all our mountains have a light side. Everything has a light side on the left. So the sun should be on the left. So you know what? Let's just roughly decide where the sun is. Okay, so say here. Now using a white, we just go in circular strokes around. So we're just basically drawing circles. They're each slightly larger than the last one, so we get a solid white circle. You don't need the circle to be perfect, although the rounder it is, the better. And then we just extend this white out a bit. So now we go to the cream color, which I believe is in the larger 48 pack for the Scholar series. So what that is this really, well, it's a cream color. It's, I guess it's almost like skin tone. It's really milky yellow, basically. And it's the closest you can get to white without, it still be yellow, basically. It's a light yellow color. And we do the exact same thing that we did with white, but we move on further outwards. And when we think we have a large enough area of this, now I think that the top right now needs a bit more since the bottom seems to be larger. Okay, so we have enough of this. We now move on to the lavender color of the Scholar series. Now what that is this kind of pinkish color. You can also use the mauve color. It's also in the Prism Color series, Scholar series, and it's a very similar color. Both are light purple, pinkish colors. You can also use the neon pink. It's basically a hot pink, and you get roughly the same effect. All right, so back to the lavender. Since actually, you can use almost any pink for this, really. Even the light pink color works. But essentially what you want to do with this purple or pinkish color is the sun is yellow and the sky is blue, at least in this particular drawing. So what I want to do is separate them. I don't, because if you mix yellow with blue, then you get green, and I don't really want green in my sky. Sometimes the sky might seem green, but not in this picture. So all you want to do is use this kind of purple or pinkish color to separate the sun from the rest of the sky. And really the pinks work, and so do the purples. Well, it depends on personal preference, and of course you can always just pick whichever one you want. You can even use different pinks and purples if you want a bit more variety. Now, I would recommend that if you try to get some variety, you stick with the pinks closer to the sun, and the purples further away from the sun. That way you kind of, since blue is a cold tone color and most pinks are warm tone, you kind of want the colors to cool down as you get further away. Alright, so that's our sun for now. Now, with the sky, if you happen to look at the sky a lot, you'll notice that actually the sky is almost always darker at the top. So if you're looking closer to the horizon, the color is often like grayish or really light blue color, while towards the top it's a darker blue color. I live in Canada, so we have very low pollution, at least where I live, and the skies are quite blue. So it's actually really evident here. So what we're doing is using the permanent blue. This is just a standard lighter blue that comes with both the 24 and the 48 pack. It's a fairly warm blue. It's kind of like Copenhagen blue, but just lighter. And what we're doing is we're starting at the corners of the drawing. Now, the permanent blue is the darkest blue we'll have in the sky for this particular drawing. You can always use darker blues if you want. You can use Copenhagen blue. I would recommend that if most of your drawing, so this has a fairly warm-ish tone. So, the grass, we use a lot of the apple green, which is a warm green. Then I recommend making the sky also a warm color. But say you have this like really cold winter scene, everything's covered in ice and snow, then you can think about using the other colors, other lighter colors. For instance, this light blue that I have, or you can use some of the violets or the porcelain blue. Basically, if you want something to look colder, choose a blue that leans more towards purple than green, essentially. So what we're doing here is you're just laying in from the right corner. And now we'll do the same thing from the left corner over here. So what this does is the darkness of the corners will help us draw our attention closer to the center of the painting. And of course we want the corners to be darkest, so we blend outward. Now notice that this side has a sun in it, so we don't want the side of the sun to be as dark as this side, as the side away from the sun. So as you go closer to the sun, you'll just kind of fade off. Once again, try to go in different directions so that not all of your strokes are going in the same direction in the sky. That way you can get a better coverage of the paper, and you'll reduce a lot of the I guess more irritating streaks you might get. You can always turn the paper around. This is why I don't like taping paper onto, say, a desk or something in order to draw on it. It's because I personally, now I'm a lefty, and I guess being left-handed doesn't make too big a difference in drawing, but the thing is, you want to be able to manipulate your pencil in different directions, and if you're not comfortable, then your drawing will suffer. So what you want to do is always make sure that you are comfortable drawing the particular scene. So moving the paper around to better suit the angles that you need to draw at will help. Now actually what I want is the corners to be very dark. So maybe a bit darker than this. So what we'll do is we'll take the Copenhagen blue, not the porcelain blue, but the Copenhagen blue, because it's the warmest tone of all the dark blues. Usually dark blues are very cold color. You associate dark blues with the night or maybe winter, but maybe like under the sea where it's also kind of freezing. But the Copenhagen blue is, out of all the blues, the furthest away from purple, essentially. So you got other colors such as porcelain blue, for instance, which is, the Ming vase kind of slightly purplish blue color. And well, actually, as opposed to indigo blue, let me try to find it. Not sure if I even have an indigo blue left, but I think I found it. This is indigo blue. As you can see, it looks like a black. I have many times mistaken that for black and just ended up with a blue. Like I drew a red flower and I accidentally put a blue splotch on it because I meant to use black. That's happened a lot of times before. Indigo blue is, in my opinion, too dark for this particular sky that we're drawing today. However, it is great for drawing water, so seas and stuff, deeper water. And for areas that you just want a really dark blue, that's the color you want. But we don't want a really dark blue. This one, you just want a lighter blue. It's a happy blue sky. Alright, now around the sun, we'll use this color. So this is a premier color. It's called Blue Slate. And let me just sharpen it a little bit. So what this is it's a light blue color, but it's also got this kind of grayish tint to it, as well as a bit of violet. It's closer to a violet side than the green side of blue. So, if you put all these into some sort of like color wheel type thing, so you would have, like the blue slate and then the permanent blue, and then you get something like aquamarine, which is more green, and then peacock green, and on this side you end up with, colors like porcelain blue. So this is slightly more to the purplish side, which is what we want around the sun. Since we have this purple, it'll be still a jarring contrast if we switch from this kind of pinkish purple into this bright blue. So we still want to have a bit of a transition here. Now don't be afraid to blend the blue into the purple. This will actually help us transition it. Don't completely drown out the purple, but yeah, just go around it. Still going in circles and circular strokes around the sun. Now let's take the blender pencil, and this is where you'll find that you'll use up a lot of blender pencils just in the sky, since there's usually just so much of it. So for the sky, we're using mostly purely vertical strokes with the blender pencil. For some reason, I found that it works better for just really smooth blending look than horizontal strokes. Of course, if you want to go for horizontal after you go for vertical strokes, go ahead. It should make it look better. But when it comes to just, if you're only looking for a certain single coat to, I guess, conserve time or something, use the vertical strokes. Now we're using a lot of pressure, and this is where your hand will get quite tired. So what some people do, and I like to do, is sometimes, if the picture permits, I'll just crop out a bit of the sky. That way I don't have to leave out, I guess that way I don't have to spend as much time on the sky, essentially. And spending less time on the sky means, first off, I have more time to start my next drawing. And second of all, it means I save money by not having to buy new blender pencils as much. Now we blend into the sun. Now this is where you don't want to go purely vertical. You want to follow the circular pattern that this area follows. So we blend vertically until we get to this circular area, and then we blend in a circular motion. And you know what, let's take the permanent blue and just fill in the middle a bit. Now, as I said, you want to alternate the angle of your strokes when you're applying the first pigment color, because that'll allow for more even distribution of the pigment onto the paper. I'm not using completely smooth paper here. I'm using it's essentially color sketch paper, but sketch papers are pretty much never completely smooth. They always have a bit of this tooth to it, which is good. The worst thing you can do when drawing with color pencils is have a completely smooth, like copy paper finish type of paper, because your color pencil will never actually stick onto it if your paper is completely smooth. The tooth kind of grabs onto the color. But the tooth also leaves these little white dots, right? So that's where the blender pencil comes into handy. But even though you have a blender pencil, it's always helpful to just have a very even coat before. You don't want dark streaks or anything like that. And so you want to use different angles, like cross-hatching or something, when you're putting on the first color pigment, so that you have a much easier time getting the blending done smoothly. Because the worst thing you can really do that can happen in your drawing is, you have, a great, you're really happy with your grass and your mountains and everything, and then you just get this dark blue streak in the sky, and you're like, oh. And then, maybe it didn't ruin your picture, but you're just like constantly thinking afterwards, I wish that, like, every time you look at the drawing, I wish that the sky didn't turn out this way. In my opinion, the easiest place to screw up a drawing in is not the really technical, difficult areas, but the large areas that you have to just cover with color. I personally am rather impatient, so for me, the sky is one of the most difficult areas, just because I have to color so much and it's so repetitive, which is, drawing on black paper helps with that, since you don't really have to do anything in the sky, just kind of leave it blank and just say it's night. Well, on gray paper, you actually have to do something about the sky. Now, luckily for me, this gray paper has, it's gray, right? And it's kind of really out of place looking gray, which means that by gradually, it's not unnatural looking gray. So by blending the dark color light and getting lighter as I go down, I don't actually have to put any pigment on the lowest areas of this sky. I can just blend down, kind of fade into nothing, and the gray will look like those kind of like mist, or I don't know, pollution. Hopefully not pollution, I guess, but it's a way to save time. So once again, we're using vertical strokes with the blender pencil. you can go over it with horizontal strokes after you go vertical, but never go horizontal in the first part. In my opinion, in my experience, going horizontal, for some reason, it leaves more streaking, and it makes for a more, kind of lumpy look to the sky. Which I'm not a huge fan of. So actually I have, a lot of old, really stubby blender pencils that I just, kind of used up over, I don't know how long, last year or so, I guess. Slightly less than a year, but oh no, drop the pencil. And I use a lot of them just doing this. So of course you're using vertical strokes as usual. I'll use a shorter one just because I don't actually have any more blender pencils. So I should probably save the one that I have right now. And you just kind of cross over all this area. Towards the top you want to be careful, so you just go in single long strokes straight up. And after that initial coda going up, this is where you go horizontal. Only at the very edge where you really go into the horizontal blending. Continue blending downwards. And right around here, we'll extend the permanent blue coloring down a little bit. So roughly to the height of where our sun is. For this particular drawing, you don't have to do that, but this is what I'm going to do. Once again, as I said, if it helps you, flip the paper around. It doesn't really change the final product, other than it might be better because you had a easier time getting the color on. So now that I have extended this color, this permanent blue down, I'll take the sky blue, which is only in the 48 Scholar Pack. There's also a sky blue in the Premier series, although Premier pencils are quite expensive, so usually what ends up happening is you just buy single Premier pencils because you run out of the color that you were using. White is a very notable example of this. I have so many white pencils that I've used over the years, and I'm just blending across, adding this sky blue color. Now, sky blue is, like the permanent blue, a very warm tone blue. So it's more to the green side of the scale than the, what's it called, light slate, I believe, blue slate that we use around the sun. But this is a lighter blue than the permanent blue, which will help us blend down into the gray. And just kind of extend it up a bit. On the sides too, around the mountains. Now, what I would recommend is that you have color all around the frame, the edges of the drawing. This frames the drawing in a way. It makes it look like nothing in the drawing is kind of running out of the paper, I guess, off the paper, and it makes it look like a better whole. It makes the drawing look better as a whole. You don't want to have, even though I told you we were going to leave this center area gray, we don't want to leave the edges gray. We want to cover that up with our light sky blue. So what we're doing is kind of creating this gray dome here around here. But we don't want to completely cover up the... we want to have color on the edges. Oh, and then you sharpen this again. Soon this particular one will become unusable just because it's so short. I don't recommend using pencils after they become shorter than the width of your palm. It becomes uncomfortable to your hand once it gets that short, and in general, you know, you need to replace your tools eventually if they run out. So once again, we're using horizontal strokes, using a lot of pressure here. And the blender pencil will just blend the sky blue into the gray. So let's go back to the middle area. And we use more of our vertical strokes. A lot of pressure here, so it might be tiring to the hands. Let your hands rest a little bit, shake it around a bit, loosen it up, and continue blending. Now I'm only going horizontal strokes over the area where I blend with vertical strokes. Now keep on going with vertical strokes. Now it's important to keep your vertical strokes fairly short. You don't want long strokes like this long or anything. You want your strokes to be about an inch or shorter, or in metric that's 2.5 centimeters, 2.52 centimeters or something like that. But really just think of like, you want your stroke to be about as wide as your thumb. No longer. So we'll continue blending. Sky. And over here we're kind of getting to a transition area between the permanent blue and the sky blue. Now I color the permanent blue up into the, I color the sky blue into the permanent blue area. Instead of just stopping the sky blue, instead of starting the sky blue right where the permanent blue ends. That way you get a better transition. You don't get a jarring transition, you kind of ease into one color. And while I sharpen, I think after that, this particular blender pencil has gone through past the limits of its effective life. Yeah. It's getting extremely short. The shorter the pencil is, the harder it is to use, the more uncomfortable it gets on your hand. And when you're using a lot of pressure with the blender pencil, you don't want it to be causing your hand extra discomfort. Hands are getting dead tired from blending on this. So we continue on the sky blue now, and as we get closer to this middle area, we lighten the color. So by lighten, I mean we use less pressure, so less of the pigment gets onto the paper. It's kind of like with shading with the pencil. The lighter you go, the lighter it is. And back to the blender, and we kind of just blend that out. Vertical strokes, about an inch long or shorter. So we're doing this like this, using a lot of pressure. Now I do know that I don't grip my pencil like most people do. It's something, you know, when I was really little, when I was learning how to write, when I was like 3 or something like that. This is just how I started grabbing my pencils, and nobody corrected me. I didn't even know how to actually properly hold a pencil until I was 6. And by then, you know, this was already, you know, muscle memory sort of thing, habit. The normal way of grabbing a pencil is probably better for your hands. I just do it because this is what's comfortable for me. Now we use a cloud blue. This is the lightest blue in the entire Prismacolor set. And we kind of just lightly go over that. Around the arc. And blend down a bit. Alright, and we have a blue sky. Now, this sky is a bit boring. There's nothing really to it, it's just a flat blue sky. So, we'll take the white, and around the bottom, we'll just kind of fluff in the indication of a few clouds, a few really distant clouds. And we're doing this in the gray area. And we're not really making any distinct shapes or anything, we're just kind of putting in the indication of some little wispy clouds back here, and it makes it a bit more interesting. Maybe this one comes out on the other end. And you take the blender pencil, and with kind of circular strokes, similar to what we did in these deciduous trees and bushes over here, you blend that out. And after you blend it out circularly, you extend that out horizontally. And there we have it. So this is the conclusion of part 8 of this gray paper and color pencil drawing. So to recap, what we did was first we did the foreground, the grass. We did used a little bit of brown in order to create a dirt bank. We drew a couple of trees, pine trees, using more blue tone green. Then we drew the lake and the far bank before extending outwards, drawing the foothills, and then mountains, and then the sky. So what you want to do is always work from the closest part outwards. You don't want to draw something in the background and then realize you want to draw over it with something else because you just thought, oh, I might want to draw something new. That can change if you're drawing from a picture, which I wasn't here. If you're drawing from a reference photo, then what you should start with is the point of interest. So for portraits, say people or animals, you start with the eyes. This drawing, which was just freehand and just made up as I went along, this is how you should draw it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next series. Bye bye.